For this episode of Let's Talk Jinx, we're talking the patch notes, patch 12.11, which we did a little bit of a preview last week, technically, when we talked about assassin changes and stuff that are potentially coming, tank changes that are potentially coming, and that might shift the meta one way or the other. One might benefit Jinx more than the other. But in the patch itself, there is no direct changes to Jinx, but there are so many changes to champions Jinx has to face in the laning phase, from supports to AD carries, as well as some systematic changes to some items. There are still things in here worth talking about related to Jinx, but I'm just going to jump immediately into it because we have a whole wall of stuff to get to, and we don't want this to be like a 20-minute video. So the first thing, of course, that usually affects everybody equally is when a new champion comes out. Now, granted, they're probably not going to be in the bot lane, as in laning in the bot lane against Jinx, but at the same time, the Void Empress will be coming to the Rift. Belveth, I believe is how you pronounce that, by June 9th. So in 2 days, actually, the patch will go live. You'll be seeing this video tomorrow, and like the day after, I believe the champion will be dropping, so there you go. Aphelios is getting some changes, which I admit last week and in a couple weeks now, I've been a little salty about her. As in Jinx and Aphelios have kind of been like the meta for a while, then they both got nerfed, then the item they used got nerfed, then Jinx got nerfed again, and now Aphelios is getting buffed. His passive attack speed and lethality with rank up is now increasing. Aphelios has been very weak this patch and didn't get much help from the durability update. We're buffing up his passive to help add a little bit more moon power to his guns. And I get it, right? Like, technically Jinx did get the 70 health kind of wiped out the last nerf, which was a 50 health reduce. So technically she got like a 20 health buff there. So technically it is even, but at the same time, like, man, if he comes back to being meta and she doesn't, that's favoritism, which is weird because they really like Jinx at Riot. It's kind of interesting. We'll briefly mention Bran in case he's played in the support role, where his passive percent health burn damage is being decreased. We talked about this a little bit. This might make Bran, if he's playable, be played as a support because his mid lane guy, they're targeting his mid lane with these changes, and it might hurt him a bit more than is necessary to play in the mid lane right now. So if you see support Bran, that's why. It's probably Bran players that don't feel like he's powerful enough for mid anymore, but they still want to play him because it's their champion. So if you're playing with the Bran, by the way, he might do all the work for you if you're feeling like you're lacking damage right now in the early game as a Jinx. Caitlyn, meanwhile, the good old hat lady. The Q AD scaling is decreased early but increased late. The mana cost increased early and decreased late. E base damage increased and cooldown decreased. Caitlyn wasn't in a great place before the durability changes, essentially, and her lane bully reputation has only continued to suffer with the update. We're putting more power into Piltover Peacemaker to help her procure her proper place, pressuring preposterous people. They really like the alliterations. I can't even, I like that too, actually, because I tend to do that with sentences and stuff too. That's nice. But at the same time, basically, she's supposed to be a lane bully, and she's not been lane bullying for a long time, even before the durability updates. Like, she needs a little bit of love. Also, spoiler, she's getting a skin next patch. I've already seen it. That'll be another video. As a matter of fact, by the time you're seeing this video, you would have already seen that video yesterday. So yeah, that's part of it. Let's also be honest. But yeah, this is something I wish they would have done. Not really Caitlyn specifically, but in general. Instead of nerfing Aphelios and Jinx like over and over in different ways, I wish they would have just started buffing other AD carries a long time ago. Because honestly, like, Tristana, Jinx, and Caitlyn, for example, all kind of fill the same space. So if Jinx is strong, that means Tristana and Caitlyn do have like the potential to be strong too, in whatever the meta is. So just buff them up a little bit instead of nerfing Jinx down, because that was part of the problem, I think, is just other AD carries also weren't that appealing. But there we go. Let's see, Gwen, Aurelia, Kayn, Kog'maw. Q armor and armor shred decrease, passive attack speed decrease, W percent max damage on hit decrease. A little void puppy has started bearing his fangs. Oddly enough, they took a lot of Gonsu's range blade. Given his knack for gnawing through his true toys and enemies in longer team fights, we're heading or patting down his percent health, damage, and attack speed. Really? Because I still never see Kog'Maw ever. I never see him in pro play. I never see him in solo queue. I never see him in regular play, casual play. ARAM's like the only time I ever see him. And obviously my experience doesn't dictate everybody's experience, but it's just kind of funny. I'm like, they're nerfing a guy that's apparently really powerful. I just never see him. So anyways, when it comes to Jinx versus Kog'Maw, a lot of stuff got nerfed. So you should be stronger than you already were, probably never playing against this champion. Which, speaking of, we didn't do that for Caitlyn. So Caitlyn versus Jinx, as a matter of fact. The poke is going to be a little bit more dastardly, if you will, and dangerous to deal with. I can do alliteration too. So the minion wave will not block Caitlyn's Q. So just kind of make sure you're always on the move, moving back and forth a little bit and stuff like that, so you're already in motion. So when the animation goes out, you might already be moving, so you can dodge the ability, so she can't lane bully you as much, because they're not really like increasing her regular AD or like her attack speed or anything like that. It's mainly a lot of power being put back on the Q. So if you dodge that, that's the buff, and then everything else is kind of the same at the moment. So there we go. Sorry about that. Let's go past Kog'maw now. Lee Sin, Lilia, Master Yi, Nunu, Olaf, Rakan, you know, he's a support, so there we go. The Q healing is being increased, the W cooldown is being decreased, the E mana cost is decreased, and the shield strength is being increased. Rakan is pretty hard during the durability update, given its heavy use of shields and reliance on getting takedowns with the CC. Something much harder than more durable champions. We're giving him back what he lost, plus a little more in hope that he can make a grand entrance back into the Rift. Now, funny enough, he was somewhat meta, even in pro play. He was kind of like there, not like the meta. So I guess he was hit too hard. They're like, we're kind of okay with someone being like there, like viable is the word we tend to use. And so we kind of want to make him viable again. So if you're going against Rakan in lane, he's the enemy support, if you will, the Q, the Gleaming Quill, the healing will now be increased from 18 to 30 to 30 to 115. That is oh, my bad, it was 90, not 30. I was about to say, that's a huge, that's quite a buff. Everybody's going to be playing Rakan. The grand entrance cooldown is being lowered. That's the one where he kind of swirls in, and I believe, like, because E's the one where he goes on top of you and puts like a shield around you if you're an ally. This is the one where he goes in, kind of jumps up and knocks up everybody that he hits. So that will be a little bit more available, even in the early game, but especially in the late game too, by about 2 seconds it looks like across the board. Be careful. Samira, the AD growth is increased, and the Q AD scaling has been increased. Since the durability update, Samira has been struggling to find those explosive leads and snowball opportunities. We're increasing her scaling a bit, so she's got more potential to style on her enemies in later stages of the game. So because this is targeting later stages of the game, when it comes to the Jinx Samira matchup, it's basically the same early game. Nothing's really changed here. It just means you're both going to be better in the late game, so you got to be the better late game champion than she's going to be. But for laning phase, actually, yeah, this should be roughly about the same across the board, right? It's still the same numbers, even for the first 3 levels, it looks like. Actually, all of these are the same here. It's just the percentage that are going up here. So instead of 80, it's 85. Instead of 90, it's 95. It's only about 5 in the early game. But late game, of course, 120% is going to be nice. Senna. Passive Myth Wraith drop rate for Senna minion kills increase. Slow on the Q has been decreased, but the slow duration has been decreased as well early, but now scales with rank. I think it's more of a support Senna change, in which case there. Oh no, it says giving 80 carry Senna more chances to collect Myth Wraiths. That is true. Have you ever noticed, if you ever played with Senna or as Senna even, sometimes they'll drop and you're trying to walk up to get it and it's already gone, and you didn't even stall. Like, you weren't even like poked down and you had to dodge it. It's like, no, it's just gone. Goodbye. And you're like, oh. That's nice. It's not nice, but you know, that you can get it with the Q if you hit through a minion and it hits the things as well. So I think that's part of what they're going for there. And they're also increasing the percent back from 2% to 8%. They dropped it to this because it was like a feasting Senna build that used to be a thing, where Tahm Kench would be the one that would get all the CS, even though Senna was being played as AD carry. It was an interesting strategy, mainly for pro play. So that's where this nerf came from to begin with, and now it's back up higher. It must have gone away, and now it's going to come roaring right back. But as Jinx, one of the things you can do here, I guess, is when you see those Wraith drops, I'm not recommending this, but I guess, like, you know how when the enemy steps up to CS, you switch to your rocket form, you hit them with a rocket, you poke them down. You could do the same thing when they're going for these Miss Wraiths now, as a matter of fact. I wouldn't say, like, throw, like, the Flame Chompers out and try and CC them over one of these, but I am saying, like, that's another opportunity now to bully, because it's going to be more, they're going to want that more. It's like 4 times the percent increase. They're going to want those when they drop. So if you can find any ways to bully them when they're going for those, there you go. Swain, Silas. Tahm Kench, passive magic damage on hit increase, Q heal increased, and R shield strength increase. So funny enough, when Jinx was meta in pro play recently, Tahm Kench was usually there by her side as well. And then he got a bit of a nerf himself, and so now they're buffing him back up. So this is kind of what I mean, like, tanks are like low-key getting buffed in this patch, especially ones that Jinx likes. Like, if you're playing with a Tahm Kench, and they're a good Tahm Kench, you're going to be safe. You're going to feel safe, and it's going to be great. So Jinx might actually be really fine this patch, because other things around her are going to be really fine this patch. Have you ever seen, like, Power Rangers, where they have the Megazord, and, like, they have the 6th Ranger, and he's like, hey, my Zord can combine with your Zord. The regular Megazord doesn't change, but it still gets powerful because of the additions of the stuff around it, the other parts of the other Megazord. That's what I'm saying here. Alright, if Jinx is the regular Megazord, you got things like Tahm Kench and other tanks being strong, you got a front line suddenly, you got protection, it's going to be great. But if you're playing against this, you got a lot of tank to burn through. And fortunately, you're an AD carry that can DPS tanks, but there's more of it that you're gonna have to burn through though. So be careful about that if the other team actually knows how to front to back and they're fronting to backing pretty well. There's some bug fixes. Tarics in the Q healing increase. The mana cost decrease and no longer increases with E rank or rank. E cooldown decrease. Stun duration increase. So basically, again, another tank that's not really relevant right now, but they want him to be relevant. And again, with the Jinx, you get a vulnerability, you get CC and stuff. But if you're going against this champion, again, even in laning phase, if he gets it early enough, of course, the laning phase lasts longer. When he pops that ultimate, just don't attack. It feels annoying, I know, but just leave. It's kind of like Alawi's tentacles. Just run away. Don't bother dealing with it and just kind of go out the area. And then after 2 seconds, you can go back at him. And if he's running away and using it, to be honest, you won the lane, all right? You push him out of lane, you asserted dominance, just take control of the minion wave and work from there, all right? I know it's really baity sometimes to try and go after him when he does that, but don't. That's how they bait you into getting killed by the AD carry or the jungler who's actually waiting. Let's see. That might be it. I mean, there's Zeri. There's a paragraph. I'm going to say you guys can read it. Basically, they feel like they nerfed her a bunch. They want her utility down, and they want her damage up. So just keep that in mind. We did talk about that a little bit last week. It's a lot. But basically, in the matchup with Jinx versus Zeri, she's going to have a lot more damage instead of utility. So keep that in mind. If you need to, just farm the minion wave if you can't fight her. So there we go. So Grievous Wounds got some changes. Despite the systematic nerf last patch, Grievous Wounds is still too impactful in the game. No, it's not. I swear to, I keep disagreeing with Riot on all points when it comes to Grievous Wounds. You nerfed healing, that was great. Stop nerfing Grievous Wounds with it. I'm not even going to read this because, oh, I guess Executioner's Calling, we build that sometimes. Grievous Wounds is down from 30% to 25%. The damage is down or going up though from 15 to 20. That's cute, but stop doing it. I swear. I don't even want to read it. I'm upset now. But again, just real quick mention, tank items, they're getting buffs. The gold on them is also being decreased. Tanks might be really good because assassins might be very good too. They did a sweep on fighter items as well, but you know, Kraken Slayer, real quick honorable mention for Jinx, has naturally gone up with the extended combat time, so we're tapping on its third stack bonus too. The third hit off of this will be down a little bit actually. They don't like how much damage it's doing now. That is more favorable than not Glacial Augment, but Gale Force and Immortal Shield Bow. Some systematic changes to the first tower and how much damage it was doing, so CS on our tower might be a little bit different. And that's really it. That's all for the champion changes. There are some skins, so we do got the Ashe and Zeri skin coming, so you might see Ashe and Zeri in your games a bit more. Seraphine as well with the Prestige skin, of course, either mid or support, so keep that in mind. But that's all for this video, so thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification, the actual subscribe button. But I don't know which video will be next, because I have a lot of kinks. So until next time, take care. ggGetJinxed. Thank you for watching, and enjoy pizza responsibly.